Hello, rugby fans. I'm Joe Harrington. I'm at the FloSports office in beautiful Austin, Texas. With me, as always, my man in the UK, Philip Bendon. And joining us earlier in the podcast, because we're talking Six Nations, is my guy Ryan Ellis of FloSports. He has been working with FloRugby for years. We're going to break down round one of the Six Nations. We're going to take a look at round two. We're going to talk some fascinating results in Rugby Europe. We're going to talk about this Ireland-Italy match, England's dominance. We're going to play a little buy-sell. And then, of course, we are going to talk about Super Rugby, which starts this week. Can't wait for it. All right, here we go. Six-pack of round one. Let's open it up. Here's the scores for those that didn't know. Italy beat Scotland 18-15. England dominated Wales 48-7, and sad music for my guy Philip. France beat Ireland. Was a match that was derailed. So let's get to it. Round one takeaways. I'll get us started by saying this, fellas. I will admit a mistake. All right. I said that I thought that no team would go winless in this. That is wrong. I was wrong. I was dead wrong on that. Wales is not going to win a match in this. I'm convinced on that. That is my one takeaway. Ryan, what was your takeaway?
Hey, well, from which game?
Well, go wherever you want, bud.
For me, let's start with Italy, Scotland. I think it was a game of weather. I think that Scotland could have won this game. I think that Italy showed that chaos in this first round can win over control. Tommaso Menicello was incredible. He's always fun to watch. Um, Garbisi was incredible. I like Italy. I think that Ireland is in win now mode. I think that if they lose this next game to Italy, it would be. I mean, Philip can tell me exactly how it would be, but not great. I don't think they will, but they basically have to win. They have much more to lose than Italy does in this game. But I'm talking about next week. Let's talk about this week. Uh, Louis Bielbiere was incredible. I thought he was the man in the match for me. His speed. Um, England looked dominant and strong. And yes, they're beating a Wales team that's not great right now and has zero confidence. But Arundel was incredible. But for me, the play that I enjoyed the most of the weekend was Ben Earl pushing through an Italian defender to make the try. Like, I thought that was incredible.
Philip, I just want to point out, Philip, that I told you all that if Italy won, I'd wear my Italy jacket. And here we go. This is
It's
it.
noted. It's noted,
My
Joe. And it,
my lovely wife got this for me. I believe this was a birthday gift. So birthday and Christmas are pretty close for me. So I always forget which one was Christmas and which one was birthday. But yeah, Italy. I don't know if you can see it, but it says Italy on the back there. I am
Italia.
so ready.
yeah,
Philip, what was your takeaways?
yeah. Ryan set a good standard here. I've got a lot to live up to now. I think, yeah, I'll work in order. And not just because I'm an Irish fan, obviously, but yeah, the Thursday evening one was an interesting one for me. I think France were obviously phenomenal, but they for all that France did well, I'll go team by team. There's still a lot more in that French team, and it happens a lot when you get an unassailable lead. You kind of park the bus a little bit, but when Ireland did kind of get over the gain line when the bench came on and had the double distributors, France did look like they could be got. And I think it probably says a lot more about Ireland than it does about France that Ireland couldn't quite capitalize on the opportunities that were there. It's yeah, I mean, phenomenal. Dupont was just on another level. But what I really like about it, Dupont, is people will look at the breaks he makes and things like that. It's his kicking game was just phenomenal. So his box kicking, when he kicked for contestables, they were always contestable for the French wingers. But he didn't just do that. He found space in the backfield with sort of dinks over the top. I mean, Thomas Ramos setting up Louis Bielbiere for that set, was it his second try? I think it was. was just incredible. He spotted a gap in the Irish backfield, which without Hugo Keenan looked very weak and disorganized. And he capitalized on that. From the Irish perspective, I think there needs to be a lot of soul searching, not necessarily losing to France, because I mean, especially I know Ryan and I picked France in this one, Joe. But I think what happened is there wasn't really an adjustment to tactics. So instead of looking at, right, where's our best success coming? Our best success is coming when we were keeping the ball going through phases, not just aimlessly kicking it away. The Irish wingers were not winning the contest in the air, yet Gibson Park in particular continued to box kick when it wasn't necessary. Prendergast went high, and they just were never quite clean enough to be contestable. And even when they were, the French wingers were just diffusing it beautifully. So I think Ireland really lost that battle, but also they lost the physical battle, which there isn't really much need for when you look at the size of the two teams. There isn't really anything in it between those teams. And then you realize, you know, when you're missing a Mac Hansen and a Hugo Keenan in the backfield, there was a lot more issues going on there. So they were pretty well exposed everywhere. I think the biggest thing for Ireland was they're now caught between the Springbok blitz defence, which the Leinster players are playing in Leinster, and what they used to do was a much more connected defence, more like what Joe Schmidt would sort of promote, where you're not hitting the hard line, you're kind of cutting down space, and every metre has to be earned, and it really frustrates teams into mistakes. So they're caught between two stools, and that means there's just massive gaps in the defensive system. It's very fixable, very fixable.
Philip, let me tell you, I'm going to defend my Ireland pick, because if Macron hadn't paid off the refs,
Joe.
the match was officiated. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Look,
no,
I
you're
still
actually
think-
right. I mean, I
Let's
don't
not.
understand.
No, we can't devolve. And
I mean, I don't know how. I'm only going to say this. I don't understand how in 2026 the French TV directors are still in charge of the angles that the referees see. It is almost the biggest joke in professional rugby.
Look,
Sorry,
but
French fans, that's the case.
here's where it leaves Ireland. They're fighting for third right now. They are fighting for third place in Six Nations at this point. Unless this weekend goes haywire, they're fighting for third right at this point. It's really like, when does England lose? When does France lose? And it might be the game against each other deciding that.
Ironically,
So,
Ryan, and this goes against what most people are saying about Ireland. The Irish media are a disaster. They're either too high or too low. I don't think Ireland are a million miles off where they need to be. It's actually, it is very fixable, and I think what you saw, there was 2 points on it. One, like the squad needs to be turned over. There is more dynamic athletes available to Andy Farrell than he's picking. Sam Prendergast looked a lot better, in my opinion, when Jack Crowley was there with him as a second distributor, which is something Mac Hansen does quite a lot. But that battle is still firmly up in the air as to who the top 10 is. But really, Ireland get a lot better if they just shore up what they're doing defensively. Are we a blitzing team, or are we a connected defensive team? We're not really a blitzing team historically, because for a number of reasons. One, you don't quite have the athletes on either wing that, say, South Africa do, where they have a Colby and an Aronson who are very good at turning and covering if the read doesn't go well inside with sort of Jesse Creel or the centres. But more importantly, it's in the South African DNA. I grew up playing schoolboy rugby in South Africa. Kids blitz from straight off. The defensive lines are furious. So Ireland do play, strategy-wise, play better when they're connected defence, and we have world-class poachers. So you have Tyg Byrne, Caelan Doris, Josh van der Fleer, people who are very good at getting over the ball and winning turnovers. That works much better in a connected defensive system than it does in a blitz defence. The blitz defence is boom or bust. We're stopping this attack now, and we're catching them behind the gain line. If you play connected defense, it really frustrates teams, especially teams like England and France, who want to make big chunk plays because they have to work for every meter, which is something that I think Ireland should look back to. And then conversely, in addition to that, it helps the Irish attacking sort of game, because it takes less out of you if you play a connected defense, because you're not sort of on the back foot trying to make the big hits. I think the biggest example of this is Gary Ringrose for me. Ringrose is naturally a very skillful playmaker, but he's now trying to play this blitz defense and just headhunt. I mean, I think he missed 4 or 5 tackles that you just wouldn't miss in a connected defensive system. So my view is that Ireland actually aren't a million miles behind England, who I'll get to when Joe wants us to get to them. But I have a few thoughts there. So I think a couple of selection changes, 3 or 4, and just get the defensive system sorted, you'll see the Irish attack working much better. The set piece was brilliant. Our scrum and lineup were great in France. So yeah.
Can I ask you, how big of a deal was it for them to lose territory and possession within this game, like to France? And are they used to playing like that? Are they capable of winning like that? Are they more comfortable winning possession and territory?
I think that's a really good point, right? I think it goes back to again what we were talking about, the blitz defense, and I'm not blaming Jacques Nienaber, but he's one of the best coaches of all time. He's a World Cup winner, and I think if everybody was aligned playing the blitz, then whatever, then that's fine. But I think there is the biggest thing Ireland tried to do is they tried to play like South Africa without really having the bodies to do it, and this, not even maybe even a skill set to do it really, because it's a very different skill set playing that South African blitz defense, quick counter attack, as opposed to what Ireland do at their best is pick teams apart. They outthink teams, and it's worked against the likes of France before. So in terms of kicking away constant possession, I think that was a big flaw. I do agree with you massively on the territory too. If you're going to kick for territory against a team like France, but find grass or get the ball off the park. Don't kick it where the French wingers have an opportunity, in and around the halfway line, because they're going to cut you open every time with Dupont and Jalibert getting the ball out to them. I mean, that he's a young player, so I don't really want to lean into it. And I think I've made my feelings clear that I believe that Jack Crowley is the best 10 for Ireland. But Prendergast kicking that ball on the volley when the Irish pack were on the other side, on the other touchline, and they're trying to get across to cover Louis Bielbiere, Nicolas Duporter, Theo Ados-Alpe, players like that. You're never going to win that. You're never going to win that. So I think the kicking strategy was very poor, and I think the defense looks like it's caught between two stools. The last thing I'll say on Ireland, because you guys know I could go for another 2-3 hours on this, and the fact that we're doing the podcast a day later this week, I have been stewing. I had fire lined up. I'm glad you got me.
He's ready.
You do seem better.
The last thing I would say on Ireland is I do think new voices are needed. I think Andy Farrell's certainly still the man to lead them, but really when you look at the coaches that Ireland could go after, Sam Vesty at Northampton, Noel McNamara at Bordeaux, or Nigel Carolan in Glasgow, those are the three coaches that make a big difference in the attacking game. I don't think the Andrew Goodman experiments work.
Philip was kicking Andy Farrell to the Prim, to the Gallagher Prim League.
Joe, I told you that in confidence. I was sitting there, all of my feelings. I was sending him off to Harlequins to learn his trade. But
we're all friends here, Phil.
I mean, I could break down Ireland for hours here, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
We can get your takeaways from the other game, and I think this is a good segue to talk a little bit what Ryan just said, that Ireland's playing for third. So here's the segue here, because of Ireland's next game. Italy just derailed the Six Nations and where I think the table's going to be. Ryan, I'm going to pose this to you because you deep dive this. Where can Italy realistically finish now? Do you think that they could actually get that third spot?
It all depends on what Scotland does to England, right? And I think that ends up being a really important game, especially at Murrayfield, right? Scotland has shown that they can beat England. That would completely derail the entire thing. I think Italy can beat Wales. So it just depends. If France loses a game, if England loses a game, Italy could have their best finish ever. What did they finish a few years ago? Fourth. That was incredible. And go ahead.
Sorry, that was a really good fourth. 2 wins and a draw, and they should have won in France. They got screwed by the refs.
I think they lost by 1 point or something like that. Realistically, I don't know. I mean, it's really thrown. It's hard I don't want to guess anymore with this situation.
Can I be honest? My view is France take the Grand Slam from what I saw this week. I think England, very good chance England lose at Murrayfield, and I'm very confident they lose in Paris.
But England was so physical. Physical.
Yeah, but it was Wales. It was Wales. You have to remember this.
Right. It is against Wales, right?
Wales lost to Japan last year.
Philip, let me ask you this, because I really want your opinion on this, because you know Ireland as well as anyone. You know the history of Ireland. Has there ever been a more intriguing Ireland-Italy match ever than the one that we're going to get this weekend?
Depends where you're from, Joe. Intriguing. I think it's a fascinating matchup. My gut and my heart and my head are that I think Ireland have still got a little bit too much for Italy, and
for sure,
I think Italy have been so good. But I've seen weirder things. I mean, I've seen the Springboks lose to Japan when no one thought that would happen. So it certainly can happen. Italy have the class. There's an interesting one. Ignacio Brex is out this week, I believe, on some personal issues. Ange Capuazzo's back though, so that's a big win. But the Italian wings were magnificent. I mean, I'd love to touch on that game a little bit in a second, but I think if you get normal conditions, I still think Ireland just have a little bit too much, and especially because I think Ireland's issues are so infinitely fixable. It's just a case of Farrell has to, drop a few of the guys that have, just aren't performing anymore, which he's slowly started doing, and just shore up that defense. If Ireland get that defensive game, I can guarantee you the Irish attack clicks back to a much higher level. Do you mind if I roll into that Italy-Scotland game? Because I just had a couple of thoughts on that.
Well, well, I think the thing why it's intriguing is because not that I think Ireland is going to lose in Dublin to
They
Italy. I
could, but
don't. I
yeah.
actually think it's going to be a pretty ugly game.
Mm,
Like, but I think in sports you build up narratives to games, and I'm
mm,
looking at this and like Italy's coming off a big match, and I'll just say this. This was a talking point. Then we can talk about that Scotland Italy game. I think that Italy played South Africa 3 times last year.
mm.
None of them were very good. I mean, I think they pushed the Springboks a little in the summer. I think
With
Ryan
a
covered
second
that
team,
game
though.
for us.
With a second team, though.
Yeah, with the second team. I thought that probably helped them coming into
Mm,
Scotland, having played
Mm.
the very best team in the world 3 times. I mean, come
mm.
on. Who else played them three? Who else played South Africa 3 times last year? It had to have helped in playing Scotland. Um,
Mm.
your thoughts on that, and then we can deep
Yeah.
dive into that
So
Scotland Italy game.
interestingly, Rassi said he thought Italy could be a top three in the Six Nations this year, which is high praise. So he saw what was going on there. The big points for me, there's two. It all starts up front. That Italian scrum is the one area I could see them really getting after Ireland. I mean, they battered Scotland. I mean, Pierre Schumann and Xander Ferguson are world class players. The British and Irish Lions. They were hammered, absolutely hammered at scrum time, to the point that it was like almost like watching the Springboks in Ireland in November. It was that uncompetitive. The second point was Italy's Italy's wingers in the air. They're built for it. Louis Lina was phenomenal in the air, and I think Scotland got their selection wrong there. Jamie Doby is a world class player in my opinion, but he's a scrum half, and they picked him on the wing. I know he plays well there for Glasgow, but that's the URC and that's the Champions Cup. This is Test rugby. You're going to come up against wingers who are far better in the air. And they just went after him. Kyle Stain was pretty good in the air, but it wasn't great. Monty Iwani, I think, still got the better of him. So Italy won the set piece. They won the aerial game. That was huge. I was actually more impressed with this win by Italy than I would have been if Italy beat Scotland by 15 points, because it is much harder to win a one-score game than it is to blow out an opposition. And Italy scored their 2 tries. What was it, Ryan? Sort of inside opening 10, 12 minutes, nearly 15 minutes maybe, and they held on, and that is huge.
That's right.
That's massive.
They
It's massive
scored early and then basically controlled the tempo. And
for
and
sure.
not only that, like the weather played such a big. And
Massive.
you would think the Scottish go to Rome and they could handle a little bit of mud, but I really think that Italy was able to like handle it with the weather. And I think that Italy now are not, obviously they're not title contenders, but they can decide who
Yeah,
inevitably wins the Six Nations this year. Who gets first?
definitely. Yeah,
Who gets second?
definitely. Yeah, Italy are certainly going to throw some spanners in the works here. I mean, they already have with Scotland, right? Scotland, I know I said it last week. Scotland said, again, we're going to win the Six Nations, and here we are. And would Scotland go and beat England this week? Of course they can. It's mad. It is wild, but I think, and Joe and I have probably said this in 10 podcasts at this stage. Gregor Townsend is not the man to be coaching Scotland. It is so abundantly clear. You go from the players who are performing incredibly well for Glasgow, beating Toulouse and Saracens and teams like that, and they just look clueless. Scotland did not play the conditions, which you've touched on a lot there, Ryan. Scotland did not play the conditions at all well. At
How
all well.
dare you talk about the Newcastle Falcons' next head coach like that?
Yeah, it's really ominous, isn't it? I bet he's glad he signed that contract now, and they're not so happy about it. But it's yeah, no, not great. So I think he is holding Scotland back at this stage, and I would, if Scotland win 2 games in the Six Nations, I think the SRU, the Scottish Rugby Union, have to get rid of him. I just don't see how it's tenable.
But did he pick the right players for
No,
this game? Did he pick
definitely not.
the he did not?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, Duan van der Merwe, okay, he's not the best under the high ball, but you've still picked a scrum half on the left wing. Actually, ironically, I would probably have gone with someone like Kyle Rowe on the left wing as a fullback winger who's really good under the high ball. I would have started Darcy Graham, that's for sure. Darcy Graham and Kyle Stain give you a lot more balance there. So, and that's not a knock on Dobie because I think he's a brilliant player, but I think you are much better off with a scrum half pairing of George Horn starting, Jamie Dobie on as your 22 because he covers the back three and the wing position. And not to use Adam Hastings either. They didn't even use Adam Hastings. Because why would you not have a second kicker on there? If your centers aren't working, just shift Sione out to 13. I didn't think Hugh Jones had a great game. So then just put, Finn or Adam Hastings at 12. I think there was a lot they could have done there.
We'll talk a lot. We'll talk a lot more about that later in our new gimmick segment later in the show. But we're going to take a little bit of break, and then when we come back, guess what? We're going to talk a little bit more about this France-Ireland match. All right. We'll talk about that after this little break. All right. As promised, we are going to talk a little bit more about that France-Ireland match because we've already spent like 20 minutes talking about it. So I have some things I wanted to ask Philip. And Ryan, you can chime in on this, but this is a theme that we've seen for Ireland. We saw it in the Autumn Nation. So, Philip, too many of these Irish matches lately seem to be derailed by officiating. And this is going to be a serious talk about it. Is this because of Ireland's style, or do officials just hate Guinness?
I'm always worried about these conversations outside of our private group chat with the three of us. But I think there's a couple of things on that. I think I'd like to start with the scrum. I think Andrew Porter has a terrible rap, and probably for the right reason. If you watch Porter's elbows, the idea in a scrum a lot of the times you want to, and I've never played in the front row, so this is just my understanding from being a scrum half. You want your prop to have their elbow up on top. Porter always goes underneath, and I don't know whether it's a shoulder range thing or whatever, but it means his elbow's generally the one hitting the ground. Now, I know he didn't play in Paris, but that has just, since the World Cup quarterfinal, that's been Ireland's downfall in the scrum. I actually thought our scrum was phenomenal with Jeremy Loughman and Michael Milne, so that rectifies one issue with the refs. So really, it comes down to it. You have to paint the picture for the match officials, right? What is not forgivable is an Antoine Dupont knock-on and a forward pass for 2 tries that weren't even looked at. And, if they looked at it and went, oh, Dupont, maybe it came off the 8's foot rather than Dupont's hand, then fine. The first try was, it was at least a foot forward, if not more. So that, but I also want to just preface this with France probably still would have won with the same margin. They had so many more opportunities to score that I don't think it swings the result. But, being 22-0 down at halftime as opposed to being 10-0 down or whatever it was, 12-0 down is a very different scoreline, right? So it's a big difference there. In terms of the rest, I think,
we joke about officiating when there's poor calls, but I think in all of sports, whether we're talking about football and, of course, basketball is a lot like this, a way a team plays will lead to more penalties and lead to more discussion about the refs. It's not necessarily the refs that are making mistakes. It's just how the team plays. So I think when we see this continuing happening to Ireland, it just makes me think that this is the way Ireland plays that draws this, as opposed to just the officiating it sucks. I don't think it does. To your point, though, I do think not reviewing those was pretty egregious.
Especially when they were reviewing things later in the game multiple times.
The Michael Milne's try was looked at by about 10 different angles. So where were those angles for the other tries? It's a joke. It is actually a joke that World Rugby and the Six Nations need to sort out. You cannot have local TV directors. The French are the worst for it, and that there's no doubt in my mind. But on the biggest thing I think with Ireland with match officials, it's about the way the Irish players talk to the match officials. My biggest thing with is I think Caelan Doris is a world-class player, but I don't think he is capable of switching off. He's playing the most physical position, arguably in the game in the back row, where he is in every ruck. He's stuck into everything. Someone like Gary Ringrose is a bit more mild-mannered, plays 13, is a bit further away from the action. I think that should be a consideration for Ireland in terms of the captaincy. I'm not saying Doris is not a good captain. I'm just saying that this is an issue. And you see it with Munster, with Tyg Byrne. He's also someone who's stuck in all the action. I personally think it takes a real skill to be a Sia Khaleesi or a Richie McCaw and do that. And even Sia didn't get respect from the refs at the start until Rassi went on and did his little 1 hour video or whatever it was annihilating the refs online. But so maybe Andy Farrell needs to, no, he won't do that. But I do think there are more viable options for the Irish captaincy who would be a lot better in terms of handling that referee. And for me, Gary Ringrose is that name, really.
That's an interesting take. Interesting take? Are we saying that, not necessarily how they play on the field? Sia Khaleesi's like the gold standard right now of captaincy and working with officials.
100%. And Richie McCaw was phenomenal. And even Ireland's captain at the 2019 World Cup, Rory Best, was great. And players like that, he'd go up and go, when you have a minute, can I have a conversation? What's happening, what I see from the outside, and I see this with the provinces every week too, is when there's a decision goes against them, instead of going, oh yeah, sorry, sir, we'll back up, get ready, can I talk to you about it later, which the refs would respond to. Doris in particular just tries to debate it. He goes, well, did you see this before that? And it's like the referee at some point is just going to tell you, no, that's not relevant. I'm not looking at that. And I really think that's where we're going wrong at the moment in terms of our referees. And you build up a reputation, don't you? It's like, Joe, if you, Ryan, and I met for a meeting every single day and every idea one of us put forward, it was shut down, eventually you're going to stop putting forward ideas and you're just going to go, this is what you're doing. And that's what the match officials are doing with Ireland at the moment, in my opinion. I do think there is, and it's an easy win. It sounds terrible. I mean, there's a reason James Ryan doesn't captain any team anymore, because the referees refuse to talk to him. Gary Ringrose, I keep going back to Ringrose. He's undroppable in terms of playing, and he's one of these quiet leaders within the group who I think has the perfect manner to interact with referees. And if you think even just the logistics of running 20 meters, if you want to make a decision, you have a bit of time to think about what you're going to say. Whereas Doris is right where all the penalties are conceded generally at the breakdown, and you get up and you're furious because you've basically been fighting like giants for at the breakdown. I just think it's as simple as that. I really, really believe it's as simple as that. And I think about it with Munster quite frequently, because we always, name a forward and usually a lock or a back row as our captain, or a hooker, someone who's right in action. Just make Craig Casey the captain. He's a great leader, has a bit of a chance to, take a step back, even though he's at the base of the breakdown. Yeah. I think it's as simple as that, personally. I really do. You don't see DuPont roaring. When have you ever seen DuPont roaring at a ref, or Maro Itoje for that matter? I really think it comes down to something as simple as that. And we can't blame the refs. It is the Irish players' fault.
Ryan, my question to you: I got 2 more points in this on the Ireland France, and apologies to people that want to talk about France, but you know what? Philip already kind of apologized for not making Antoine Dupont
I have
the
thoughts
number
on
one player
France
in the
too.
world.
Yeah.
Ryan, my question to you here is, Ireland's got 4 more matches here, and I think that they can certainly get back into this. They can certainly win it. What's kind of the path? I mean, they got to. I mean, they got to beat England, and that's
Yeah, I mean, I think in a week, maybe we all forget this if they come out and destroy Italy, right? And the Irish media they'll be heroes again, right? Maybe
He's
not.
so bad. I know who will be writing it too. That's the worst thing.
I mean, for one, I would expect Jack Crowley to probably start, but we'll see what happens with that. Who knows? The other Prendergast brother did quite
Ian.
well, I believe.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's really hard after round 1 to see where this is going, because there were things that happened that we didn't really expect. I do think that each team that won controlled the physicality of the game. Now, all 3 teams. So that it's a physical sport, and maybe it's a stupid comment, but that is exactly what happened.
It's the same as American football. Whoever wins the line of scrimmage generally wins, right? Like, if you've got defensive ends or defensive tackles in the face of your quarterback all game, you're screwed. But Joe, just because I know I'm not going to talk about Ireland, about France, because I don't want to be accused of us ignoring France as we were in a few comments before. There's one thing I think that might be not having been talked enough about what France did really well, and what I think is actually a very interesting thing, is they shifted the way they've selected their squad, right? So when you look at their 2 locks and back row, really all 3 of them are interchangeable in terms of those positions. So they've went with a really, really mobile pack. Now, what does that do? It makes you more competitive at line out, because you've got probably 4 or 5 jumpers there. So it limits what Ireland can do. Ireland went to the front quite often, even though I think the Irish line out got a lot better. Two, it makes you significantly better at the breakdown because you've got guys who are getting to the breakdown quickly, gives you more carrying options. And when you look at the kick contestables, you looked at Charles Olivon was in the air, Mikel Gaillard was in the air, Oscar Jegu was in the air in terms of winning balls back. And even more importantly, if Teo Adesogbe goes up and slaps the ball back, you've got mobile forwards that are getting the loose ball. I mean, it was just such a clever way. And then it has the double effect of, in the second half, when you want to get a bit more physical to close out the game, you bring off Emmanuel Meafu, who's just a freak, a giant, and you just close the game out. It's such a clever selection. I think that's really underrated with what France did this week.
This is a good segue because the last question I'm going to ask you, Philip, and you know what? For our French audience, I'll phrase it like this. We started the Six Nations talking about France maybe changing coaches before the World Cup. I'm going to flip it around because France had a great strategy against Ireland, as you just broke down. France beat probably one of the three top teams that you will decide who wins this. France is riding high. They had a great week. Ireland had a bad week. So I'm going to phrase it like this. Is Ireland coach Andy Farrell going to be the coach of the Irish team when the World Cup comes in 2027?
Before I answer, if we make any headlines out of this, I'm going to say Ryan Ellis says. So whatever I say, Ryan actually said. But yeah, he will be because Irish rugby aren't as volatile as French rugby, I would say. I really, really feel so strongly that change is needed within the setup, though. And I know it sounds harsh. And Farrell's whole philosophy is built on loyalty. And we've seen that. But I like it at like, it's kind of... It's a weird one, right? The Springboks brought in so many new ideas. If you have groupthink all the time, you're just gonna stagnate, right? You're not gonna go make progress. They're the two of the best attacking coaches in Europe and probably in World Rugby are Irish, and they're Nigel Carlin and Noel McNamara, and they're not involved with Irish rugby. One of the best forwards coaches, two of the best forwards coaches, in fact, Jerry Flannery's with the Springboks, so we're not getting him back. But Donica Ryan's with La Rochelle. Why not go after someone like that? So I do think that could really, really reinvigorate things and challenge Farrell. I mean, you think about any business, right? At Flow, right? We're not going to have, there's multiple directors who will all have different ideas, and that's what creates a really important bit of, I would say, creative friction is what you want. And I don't believe that is there in Ireland. I don't think Ireland are innovative enough, but I think they can be. So I think, in short, because I've given another wordy answer, Andy Farrell will be Ireland's coach, but I think they have to bring in some new assistants. I just think that's what has to happen, I'm afraid. And I would imagine that's probably the general consensus around Irish rugby at this stage.
Ryan,
before we move on, I want to know what Philip thought of George Ford, because I know that he was quite a calm presence for the English team.
Yeah.
I love Marcus Smith. They put him in it back later in the game, and he used his speed and everything, but they kept George Ford in for the entire game. He's a little bit older, but tell me what you saw there from the England game.
Yeah, what I like about George Ford is that there's a couple of points on it. The one is obviously he's so familiar with the Borthwick system, but there's pretty much not really a better striker of the ball in World Rugby at the moment outside of Thomas Ramos, I would argue, in terms of both from the kicking tee but also the contestable kicks. So what's nice about Ford is he doesn't try to do too much, right? So he doesn't try, which you're seeing with the Irish 10s at the moment. They're quite young and they're trying to make things happen. He's quite happy to just give it to the big ball carriers around him. But that doesn't mean he's not involved with the attacking play. He's really good. He's kind of like, when you look at what Farrell and Sexton were doing at their best, he's one of these 10s, again, who's reading phases ahead. He goes, right, if I put Marrow into this line here, this gap will be here, which means there'll be a space here, which means go here. Works beautifully. So that means that you've got big, powerful ball carriers like Tommy Freeman at outside centre. The back three of England are electric. They're super quick. So they're put in space. But then he had someone like Fraser Dingwall, who's also a very good distributor, but very physical at 12. So that's a nice foil. I think basically what he does is his kicking game is so on point that it just sets you up for success. What I would say is when England aren't winning the gain line, when they play against someone like South Africa, let's see how all that works. It is, in theory, it's the best kind of 10 to have against a team like that to keep you going forward. But I do think when you're backtracking, it might be difficult. But I right now, he's just phenomenal. Personally, I think Finn Smith is the future of the 10 position after the World Cup because he's got a bit more physicality and stuff than George Ford, but he's the most similar. I think unfortunately they're just not going to build a whole team around Marcus Smith, and I think the way the laws are, the way England want to play, I think George Smith is just so good at it. He plays like his dad in terms of a rugby league player. Good kicking, kicks out phases. Yeah, I've been so impressed with him. And the scary thing is, I know we talked about England crushing Wales. I actually don't think England even played that well, which is frightening for everyone because they've got so much more to go. Yeah.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. We are going to take a little bit break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about that England stomping Wales in round one. So we're going to we're going to take a little break, and then we'll come back, and we will talk more about England and Wales. All right, as promised, England beat Wales. Wales has just had the worst last two matches they've had to play. South Africa, then England. So I'm going to start it like this. This is my prompt to everyone here. If England played South Africa in Sydney, Australia, right now, who wins this match?
South Africa.
South Africa by 15. Yeah. Still.
You teed us up, but
Well, here's my question now. England has a long winning streak now. I don't think they've lost since the last Six Nations, right?
I'm higher on England than Philip is. Maybe institutionally as well. So
if England gets past France and Ireland, like when are they going to lose next?
I think England could win the Six Nations. I really
sure.
do. I really do. And in fact, I'm rooting for them to win the Six Nations. It would be the first time in 5 years or something like that. So they have to win. That's it. You have to win in the Six Nations. You have to win whether you're away. You have to win whether the weather's bad. I mean, that's what we saw with Italy and Scotland. Scotland really should have won that game, but yeah. Henry Arundel was incredible. We haven't talked about him. He had a hat trick. I still love the Ben Earl try. I think that was probably my favorite play of the week. So,
I just imagine if I had said that the game was going to be played in Perth, Australia, y'all would have different answers. That's what it was, right? It was.
The Perth folks would be so happy about a big game like that out there.
Yeah, there's loads of South Africans there, I think. Interestingly, again, just for a clarifier, so don't get nailed for bias, my dad is from Leeds in the UK, so there is an element there. I do have a bit of English blood. So,
sure.
I just think that this England team are not close to their ceiling, and I mean it as a compliment, because I think there's so much more that they can give. They've got so many good young players. But if you were asking me, are they going to beat the double world champions? I think we don't know what this England team's like in terms of under pressure. Really, the last time they were under pressure, Ireland hammered them. I know they came back with 2 late tries. Ireland, make no mistake about it, Ireland hammered England last year in the Six Nations. And England scored 2 great tries to their credit, and that's why they edged them in the Six Nations, because they had another bonus point. We just don't know where they are yet. If you're going to ask me who's going to beat South Africa, I would have said France, and France still lost by 2 scores to South Africa. Admittedly, they didn't have Dupont, so that does make a big difference.
And admittedly, it was 2 scores, but we talked about this in the meantime, like for 60 minutes. I mean, France took it to South Africa for 60 minutes. I mean, that looked like the 2 best teams in the world to me. And then South Africa was like, we're the Springboks, and just took over the game.
So that's what I think happens against England too, because I think England's bench is really good, but it's not. I still just think South Africa have more. I really firmly believe that at the moment. But I'm saying when you get to the World Cup, who's going to be the biggest challengers? I think it is England and France. You can never write off the All Blacks, but the way the draw is, it's an interesting one that you could end up with. England getting in there against South Africa, I think, in the final from memory. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's the case. And I think they are probably, if you're going to ask me who's going to be brash enough to do it, then England are. But when push comes to shove, I'm still putting all my chips in green. And I think that's...
I think the dark horse, just not to derail it into a World Cup conversation, although I am going to derail the World Cup conversation. We talked about this in the meantime. I actually think Argentina is the dark horse because I think physically they're the best team in the world that matches up with South Africa. We talked about that during the podcast, and Argentina is only getting better. So
Yeah, thanks for
that would be
picking
my take.
Ireland's quarterfinal opponents. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, likely quarterfinal opponents. Yeah, Argentina could be really good too. It'll be really interesting. It's going to be wide open. The big thing with this is what's been just driving me up the wall in Irish media at the moment is that like we're talking like Ireland are done and that the whole world order has changed. The world order is still firmly South Africa and everybody else, in my opinion.
Hmm.
England and France have a little bit of an edge. New Zealand have an edge. I think Ireland are the next in the next tier below that, just. But 18 months time, you could be talking. We could be sitting here talking about Noah Kaluri starting for England as the best winger in the world. You could be talking about anything, like it's just.
Well, that's going to be one of my questions in a little bit. So I don't want to get too ahead of it. I want to get Ryan in here and just let's bring it back down to the Six Nations real quick, real quick. Ryan, this is going to come down to France, England for the Six Nations, isn't it?
Hmm. I think so. Yeah.
How big
That
of
was
a
the question.
well, here's my follow up to that, because great journalists have follow up questions here. Here's my follow up, Ryan. When will this be the biggest France England match in years? Because it's been Ireland France for so long in Six Nations as the match, and now here comes England, and this is like an old school Six Nations matchup, right? This is to both of you, but Ryan.
Yeah, it's really interesting that they led with Ireland France because it was a good game, and there was a point in the Ireland France game where it really could have turned when Ireland scored 2 tries in 3 minutes, and you could have seen if they had scored another one and given themselves hope, it really could have gone a different direction. But I think, yeah, there's a chance that Ireland France go undefeated into their match, right? I don't know that that's going to happen, but France has already passed the biggest test before that. Um, it, we, it's so hard with Six Nations because as we've seen, whether attrition is going to start playing into this. There's already been teams that went into this Six Nations with injuries. There are going to be more. There already have been. So we'll see. But right now, I think England look great. How many did they score? 45 points. I mean, it's still not nothing, right? I mean, that's quite a bit. What I want to know from Philip is what I want to know from Philip is we haven't talked about Wales. I want to know what Wales did well. Can you
Oh,
scrape and find anything where Wales did well? Because I want to give the Welsh fans some hope.
Well, they showed up. They actually got to the stadium. The match
marginally.
started on time.
Did
Yeah.
anyone do well without Jack Morgan? Obviously, and that
Uh,
you're missing a
yeah.
lot there.
I thought Dan Edwards for a young 10 with no forward platform played really well. I thought he did well. Thought that Reece Zammit showed with even an inch of space what he can do. But the problem for Reece Zammit in particular is people are going to look at him every time he gets the ball because he's Wales' biggest threat. And they're going to go, what are you going to do? You're going to score? You're going to score? And every time he doesn't score, it's a failure. So I think Reece Zammit did quite well. I thought Edwards played pretty well, but he was you can only we touched on it before there. What happens when your pack are getting beaten up? It's really
Hmm.
hard. I mean, Wales, they didn't help themselves. 2 yellow cards in the pack, and the game's over. It's Yeah, Jack Morgan makes a big difference. I don't know why Tommy Raffel's not in the squad. I don't know why Joe Hawkins wasn't starting at 12. There's easy wins for me. I think Wales stuffed their selection. I don't think that they're not going to beat England, but I don't think they get quite as blown out if they make a
Yeah.
few selection differences. And yeah, even Ross Moriarty, you just need to bring some big physical players back in. And I think Joe Hawkins takes a lot of pressure off Dan Edwards if you put him at 12s because he's, again, like I touched on with Crowley and Prendergast playing together, you've got two kickers and two distributors either side of the rock makes a big difference. Yeah, hard to find things that Wales did well. I think when you're under that much pressure, it's easy to make mistakes, but they didn't help themselves with their discipline. It was
Hmm.
just shocking. It was so needless too. It was just like, yeah, I think they're so far off. And last year, Joe and I think talked, and I was like, oh, maybe Wales will be back in 2, 3 years. They're not going to be back for 4 or 5. I mean, they're under 5, 6, maybe even. Their under 20s are really good at the moment, comparative to what they have been for a while. But it's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
We all know what's going on off the field there. I think, yeah, that's what I say about England. Like, I think England could have put 60 up on them, 70 up on them if they were a bit more on their game.
Last talking point on this match, and then we can get to our buy sell, and that is Philip. You talk an awful lot about England peaking too early in these World Cup cycles.
Ireland.
Um,
Yeah.
Well, is England peaking too early again, or do you think because of the next wave of young players England has that they're going to be good for next year in the World Cup?
Yeah, I think England are good. I think they're hitting at the right time. That's why I was saying, Joe, I think their ceiling is so much higher than they've already shown. But we just don't know because until you play the gold standard, you just don't know. I mean, again, this sounds really harsh, but they got the All Blacks at the perfect time in November, right? Like Ireland played the All Blacks, having not played any rugby since the Lions. So, but it was still a physical game. The All Blacks have been worn down by a very physical Scotland game, and England blitzed them. So I think if both teams are fresh, I think they're closer to New Zealand than they are to South Africa, if that makes sense. I think they're closer there, and I think France are closer too. I think France are ahead of them still, but we'll find out in the last round. And on that topic of getting to the last round, we could well get to the point where you get there and England have lost twice. If they lose to Scotland and Ireland back to back, it's very doable. It's very possible. But I do think they get there. I do. My gut feeling is they'll get there unbeaten and it'll be a great Le Crunch, it's normally called. So that'll be a good match. But it's also possible that they get there with 2 losses and 2 wins. Or 2 losses and a win. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we're going to go to the rugby stock market, and we're going to buy and sell some things. So we'll be back in a second. All right, we're on to round 2, and it's time to buy and sell some stock and things. So I'm going to ask some questions, and the first one will be for Philip, and the second one I think will be for Ryan. So we'll breeze through this. But Philip, the first one here, buy or sell. This isn't all on Gregor Townsend, and Scotland's problems are deeper than just the head coach.
Yeah, I mean the players have to execute, but no, I'm selling. Yeah, it's Gregor's fault. Yeah, 100% in my mind. He's been there so long, and he's definitely raised the floor, but he's never. This team should be better than they are. I mean, at some point it's got to be on the coach, but yeah, no, it's on Gregor in my opinion.
All right. See, that's the answer I want. There we go. Sorry, Gregor. We talk about him a lot, but you know what? It's a testament to him that he's been there for 9 years now. So shout out to him. No one lasts that long.
No,
But yeah, it does seem like
with no
they need to
success.
freshen things up here.
Yeah.
Ryan, here's a fun one for you. Okay. Buy or sell. Someone else will have a better celebration than Henry Pollock at some point in this Six Nations.
I mean, I think his celebration is the best in rugby. Rugby aren't really known for their celebrations, let's be honest. But and he's taken it from European football. It should be noted. I believe it was a Manchester United player, but the pulse check is the best celebration in rugby right now. I do quite like Thomas Ramos receiving the ball and the shrug, but it wasn't a celebration necessarily.
Reminded me of when he said when he got called over by the referee against South Africa for Kubus Reinig. He's like, "Well, it's his fault." It's like-
He was like, oh.
I don't even think it's a hot take at this point. I want more of this. I want more players to show their charisma and show how much fun they're having playing rugby. Celebrate. Do it.
It's a gentleman's sport, Joe. It's a gentleman's sport.
I think
Look,
you'll see it in
go
France, England. If Pollock makes a mistake and France score off it, oh, he's gonna hear it from the
Oh,
players and the crowd. Yeah,
go Rod Tidwell from Jerry Maguire on it. All right. Score the touchdown and dance. It just every time I see people criticize Henry Pollock for celebrating, it just makes me think of that scene
oh,
of Cuba Gooding Jr. saying, "Oh, you want me to dance?" And then just it clicks for him.
uh,
That's what it makes me think. But
yeah.
one of my favorite moments of the last few months of rugby is Henry Pollock scores for Northampton against UBB,
Oh,
and then and has the celebration, and then UBB just crushes Northampton, is just
mm.
mocking him the rest of the game. It was fun. That's what sports is about. Sports are supposed to be fun. So I love Henry Pollock, and I want him to do more of it. All right, Philip, we got 2 more of these. This one's for you. Buy or sell. the biggest upset of the weekend wasn't Italy's win over Scotland. It was the freaking Germans beating Romania.
Yeah,
Come
bye.
on. How do you top that?
By all day. I did not see that coming, and it is both very exciting for German rugby and so sad for Romanian rugby.
Mm,
But jeepers, I mean, people forget Romania were going toe to toe with tier one nations in the 90s.
that's right.
It's just, yeah, gone off a cliff. I
Talk
think,
about a sloppy game too. If you watched
yeah.
that game, the field was. I mean, that was an old school rugby
Oh
like
yeah.
field.
How about the Swiss neighbors? The German neighbors, Switzerland. I mean, I thought it was going to be. I thought Georgia were going to nearly put 100 on them because they've pretty much done that all the time, and
Yeah,
right through what half time, and then Georgia obviously kicked it up a gear. But yeah,
right.
I mean, it was a great weekend of Rugby Europe. I thought it was phenomenal. Yeah.
I mean, what is the history of German rugby? Because we talk about all these other countries, and for them to beat it, and look, they didn't beat the Springboks, but they beat a team that was ranked way higher than them. And Ryan, before the podcast, told me they jumped like 35 spots in the rankings.
Mm.
That's right.
Yeah, it's huge. And you think about a country like Germany with its population and the athletes it's producing, over
Mhm.
time, it's built for rugby. So but I really hope it keeps kicking on. And I'd not to lean into too many stereotypes, but you'd imagine they'd be very efficient to getting their system in line in
Mhm.
place if they take to it. So
German
yeah, man.
engineering.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, we might be sitting here in 10 years' time, gents, going, God, that World Cup final between Switzerland, 20 years' time in Switzerland and Germany was just phenomenal. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Okay, Ryan, the last buy or sell question goes to you. And this is might be a doozy, and you know what? Gregor, you can come in and you can buy and sell it too. Georgia and Spain. I know Georgia was a little sloppy, a little sluggish to start, but they wound up winning. Spain looked tremendous in round one. Could Georgia, Spain, I'll even throw Portugal in here, could they beat Wales right now if they played?
I think Georgia absolutely can beat Wales right now. Yeah, I really do. I think that the physicality that they have travels. I don't know that much about Spain, Spanish rugby, to be honest with you, but I do think Georgia could.
Phil, what about you?
Yeah, I think what's really interesting is I think it's also being underplayed that Georgia don't have a lot of their best players. I mean, you think of David Ninashvili, who plays for La Rochelle, the fullback, makes that team infinitely better. I saw something, ironically, on Reddit about the props playing in European top leagues from Georgia. The depth of their front row, yeah, I think they could beat Wales with their first team out. Um, yeah, I think so. I really think they could at this stage. They have
Was
recently, haven't they? So.
was funny. Some of our comments on social media, they were talking about maybe Wales going to Rugby Europe, so
Oh,
they could win. So
Oh,
that's where we're at now
it's
with the,
oh,
painful.
the mighty dragons in Wales.
so mean.
But
I
listen,
mean,
let's raise the floor in rugby.
Yeah.
Like Uruguay, the Georgias, like these Chile, like those teams need to be, you know,
I'm
I
I'm right there with you, Ryan. I think what we saw this week from Rugby Europe is great for the sport. I,
mhm.
I think it. I think that there were really great matches. They were so fun. You can watch all the Rugby Europe games on FloRugby. They were so good this past weekend. And of course, upsets are great for the sport. I mean, one thing you can say, well, Romania just lost to Germany, but then on the other hand, you can say, wow, Germany just beat Romania. I mean, Romania
Mhm.
is solidly like right after the top 10 historically. So I think it's good for rugby.
Yeah, and I'd love to see an option of the Six Nations putting their second teams into Rugby Europe. Why not get the A teams going in there because they'd be highly competitive. And I understand that there's the world ranking points, but let Rugby Europe teams still get world ranking points against each other, and
Mhm.
they don't lose points if they lose to Ireland A or England 15. It would be so good for everyone because it builds the tier one depth and it makes the tier two more competitive. I'd love to see that. I know logistically it's hard, but I do think you could really sell out an Ireland A game against Portugal if you did it down at Cork. Now, to be fair, Portugal's a bad example because Ireland scored over 100 points against them in the summer with the second team, but you get my point generally.
Okay, fellas, we've talked about Rugby Europe. Now it's time to go back to the Six Nations in round two. We're going to make some picks. So here we go.
Mhm.
At 9:10 a.m. Eastern Time on Valentine's Day, which is going to be great because I imagine a lot of Philip's Valentine's Days, if they even celebrate it over in
Really?
Europe, get derailed by the Six Nations. Well, it's happening this year, Philip. You and the lovely wife are going to sit down and watch Ireland versus Italy Saturday morning in the States. Who are we picking in this game?
Ireland, and I have actually, I think Ireland are kind of going to do what Ryan said, and I think they're going to put to rest quite a lot of the big concerns. I think they'll beat Italy quite comfortably. I think they, if the Irish coaching staff are as good as we think they are, they will sort out that defensive issue, and I think Ireland by 15 to 20 points. I do think it'll be a lot closer if it was in Rome, but I'm not as. I could look like a complete idiot this time next week and Ireland lost, but I just don't feel as concerned. I think it was
There would
so.
be more concerns, I think, outside
Yeah,
if
and that's the
Italy
only way I
wins.
see Andy Farrell getting fired is if like because if you lose to Italy, you can still lose to England and Scotland quite easily, and winning just against Wales is no good.
Yeah, I think Ireland take care of Italy.
All right, I got to take this off. I got to take the jacket off for this.
I was hoping you'd have an Irish jersey underneath. I was so impressed.
Oh, if only.
Oh, that would have been good.
The shout out to the
There we
rugby
go.
guy on Instagram. He's so funny with like he'll make a prediction and if it's wrong he'll just like switch jerseys. So it's well worth a follow on social media. The rugby guy.
Yeah. Ireland's winning this match. I don't think it'll be close. That doesn't mean I don't think it's an interesting match. Like I said earlier, it's all about narratives. For Italy, like this is probably the most important match they've played in a long time in the Six Nations because you don't get the opportunity a lot to, when you're Italy, to come off a big win over one of the top four teams in the competition historically, and then go in and immediately play someone else. If they were going in and playing Wales in this,
Hmm.
it wouldn't be that big of a match because they're supposed to beat Wales. They're
Mm.
not supposed to beat Ireland. I don't think they'll beat Ireland, but that doesn't mean that this isn't going to be a fun match. I think Italy pulls out all the stops. I think they play really well. I think this is a classic. In the States right now, it's February. We're getting close to March Madness. This is a classic college basketball matchup of a team that just upset a top 10 team, and then they all of a sudden have to go on the road to play another top 10 team. And that game is usually always close, always a nail biter. Um, I think Ireland wins this match. All right, the second match on Saturday, Scotland versus England at 11:40 a.m. Eastern Time. Ryan's going to be doing the live updates for that match. It is by far the biggest match of the weekend. It's a
Mm.
match that might even decide the Six Nations. Ryan, you're going to be covering this game. You don't have to pick sides if you want to, but just give me your take on what happens in this game.
I think I have to be consistent. I think England wins the Six Nations, so they have to win this match, right? So if they don't, I'm going to look like an idiot next week. So maybe Philip and I will both be in the same class.
Yeah.
Side question, Philip, before you give your picks.
Hmm.
Over under the amount of beers that'll be drank
Oh,
at Muirfield Stadium this weekend.
I reckon they've already started, Joe.
Mhm.
I remember the World Cup in France. Was it France? I think it must be. Yeah. They ran out of beer in the Ireland match. It was shocking. So the Scots are just as good at us as us at that. So yeah, I think there's going to be oh god, a million liters of beer gone in the build up to this one between English and Irish Scottish fans. Yeah, good luck. As far as the result goes, the weather forecast is good for Saturday, which actually plays into Scotland's favour because I think if it has to go to a power game, they don't stand a chance. I'm going to pick Scotland to upset England here, just because of all that they've shown over the last few years that they can beat England. They should have beaten England last year. Finn Russell had nailed his kicks. Yeah, this is my upset pick for this week. I think Scotland by 5 points.
Wow, I love it.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait. I can't wait for the first comment of the YouTube is, why does Philip hate England?
My dad's from Leeds, for God's sake. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's from Leeds, folks. He doesn't hate England.
I love Ellen
I
Road.
I think that's great. But here's the funniest thing about that pick, Philip. If Scotland beats England,
Yeah,
Gregor Townsend's going to get a 10-year extension
that's what I'm
contract from
hoping.
Scotland.
Joe, that's my absolute hope is that is the case because we have to play them in next year's World Cup.
To be fair, the history of England makes them quite easy to dislike.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you
it's
know,
that
it is what
that
it is.
not
It
really the
it
good
is.
guys generally.
Yeah,
It's like that
it's
meme,
sports
are
is
we the
different. I
baddies?
think that it's sometimes you can separate it.
This is obviously okay. We talked about this last week. What's the name of this trophy?
Oh, the
It's the
Calcutta Cup.
Calcutta.
Yeah.
Okay, Calcutta Cup. I'm going to for the millennials out there. I mean, I don't know. This movie's like 30 years old, so maybe it doesn't work. But we'll call this the Braveheart Trophy because
Mm.
that's what I
Yeah.
think of when I think Scotland, England, and I don't think that's too far off of what everyone else thinks when they think Scotland versus England.
Bang on.
Um, all right, so last game of the Six Nations is going to be on Sunday, and that is going to be at 10:10 a.m. Eastern Time, Sunday morning in the United States. France travels across the channel. They go to Cardiff, Wales to face our team that I don't think will win a match. I'm
Do we even have to
not
do this?
Yeah, we
look.
don't. I mean, I think the better question is how quickly does France score? I think within the first 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
I'll pose it this way: how many tries do you think Wales gets? Can they get the bonus point?
No.
It'll probably be like last week, to be honest with you.
I get
Maybe
one.
one.
Yeah, one or
What's
two.
France's lineup going to look like? Does France hold back some players? Do they rest guys? Do they play some of their younger guys in this game?
Yeah, I could see a bit of a shift, but it's hard because like the team that played against Ireland is pretty young. You know. So yeah.
Yeah,
It,
that's true. It's true. Teo Atasogbe and
yeah.
I mean they are a young team,
Even Louis
naturally.
BLBRA.
So yeah,
All
Yeah.
right. Well, there you have it. You can watch the matches. These Six Nation matches are not on Flow. They're on Peacock, our friends over there. You know, if you're on Peacock, you're watching the Winter Olympics this weekend, flip over, watch some rugby. And then you say, hey, where do these guys play club rugby? And then say, on Flow Sports and Flow Rugby. And then you come over and you watch it because all of these cats are going to be playing on our platforms when they come back for club. It's going to be great. That's why we love the Six Nations. It is the best rugby players in the world that we watch all year long on Flow Rugby, and then they join their national team. Ryan, we're going to talk a little bit Super Rugby here next, but you're a busy man. You're going to go in. What's going on at Flow Sports? Is it baseball season?
baseball, softball, wrestling, we've got it all.
Yeah, don't miss it. Ryan's
Cricket.
going to be. Oh, okay. Can we just say that right now? The U.S. nearly beat India in
Was
cricket this
mad.
past weekend, and
Yeah.
you should have seen the reaction at Flow. We were so excited watching that. We had so many people hopping on, and cricket's a new sport at Flow, and we were so excited because we almost had the biggest upset ever. Philip, did you ever actually believe India was going to lose to the United States?
Yeah, I did. I was as invested as you were. I mean, Ireland almost beat Sri Lanka too. I mean, it wouldn't have been on the level of the US beating India, but I really thought it was such an achievable score. But yeah, I mean, in India are basically the All Blacks of cricket, right? So it's or the Springboks these days of cricket. So yeah, I mean, it's great to see the US doing so well. I like the US kit, I have to say. So yeah, cool. It's great that cricket's on Flow. Another
Yeah,
sport for me to enjoy.
Cricket World Cup is going on. That's going to be on Flow Live, the
Mm.
website, but also on the Flow Sports app. You can watch it. It's going to be great. It's a new partner that we have here, so check out all the matches. You know what? The best thing about cricket is the matches are so long that you can watch some of it and then go watch some rugby and come
Well,
back, and
T20
chances are
T20 is
it's
not long.
coming.
That's why it's great.
Yeah, T20's fastball. Yeah, 20 overs. But yeah, no, it's so good to have it on there. Love it, absolutely love it, and all the best teams.
All right,
All right,
fellas.
Ryan. We'll
Cheers,
talk
Ryan.
Six Nations next week. Watch it. Coming back. Super Rugby with Philip and I. Philip, the Six Nations and Rugby Europe is raging in the Northern Hemisphere. They are playing international matches. The club's on hiatus. But guess what? One of the best rugby leagues in the world starts their season this weekend. We have been previewing the Super Rugby teams. We are previewing each individual Super Rugby team on our social platforms. Take a look at those. We're going to finish those up in the lead up to the first matches, which will be Friday in the States, very late at night. Could be Saturday morning for some of those games. Super Rugby back for 2026 season. Incredibly excited. I'm excited. Philip, excitement levels we've
Buzzing,
discussed very high.
buzzing,
What
Jeff.
team are you most excited for?
Oh, I'm so excited, mate. I love having the rugby usually in the morning for me, which is nice. Sets me up for the Six Nations and Rugby Europe later in the day. So, yeah, no, I'm really excited. In terms of teams, I am most excited to watch. I'm going to go a little bit, maybe it's a little bit left field here, but I love the Fijian Drua. I just love watching how they play. Anytime you watch the Flying Fijians is a good time. So getting to watch them consistently week in, week out is really great. So I'm also buzzing to see Geordie Barrett back in Super Rugby after his time in Leinster. So Fijian Drua are my team. Do you have a favourite team you're looking forward to, Joe, this season? Haven't
I
told you
do
already.
have a favorite team. If you've listened to our previews, you know I have a favorite team. Philip, just on the Drua, I will tell you this. Man, if I could just like pick one player from Europe and put him on the Drua, I don't even know how it fits, but I would love to see the Demolition Man leave La Rochelle and come and play for the Drua.
Yeah,
Batia is
Ronnie
one of my
Batia.
all-time favorites. He's a star on the Fijian national team. I'd love it if he came down and played there. But that's my take on the Drua.
Oh, it'd be so good. Yeah, it'd be so good. I mean, he's nearly 40. He might do it in his 50s. Yeah.
Oh, I don't even care. I hope that he plays forever. I
Oh,
love
yeah.
that guy.
Oh, he's so good. He's so good.
The team I'm most excited for is definitely the Warthogs, the team in New South Wales, because my guy, there are several players that I am just very high on. If you've listened to this podcast, you know I love Henry Pollock. You know I love Noah Kalari. Well, my guy Joe with the Warthogs, say his last name for me,
Yeah,
Philip.
Suali'i. Yeah, there we go. Joseph Okuso Suali'i.
I call him Joe. My name is Joe. We are connected. In the world of Joe's, he's one of my favorites. He's one of the best young players in the world. He was so freaking good in the rugby championship for Australia. He's with the Warthogs. Warthogs went like 6-0-8 last year.
Mm.
I think they're going to be even better this year. I am incredibly excited to watch the Warthogs this year.
Yeah, I think they're going to be much better. And again, Joe, I think they're building really nicely even for the future when we talked about, Angus Crichton signing from the NRL. But yeah, going to be exciting. Without Angus Bell this year is a big loss for them and Taniela Tupou, but I think they're still going to be a really good side.
So here we go. We start out six matches this week for round one of Super Rugby. We have the Highlanders versus Crusaders. The Crusaders are the defending champions. That is at 12:05 on February 13th. So for Philip, that is a game that he's watching with his very tiny baby and maybe a cup of coffee. Just make sure you don't spill the coffee on the baby. All right. Um, for me, it's me wondering why I'm up this late watching rugby on a Friday night where I know I got to wake up at 6 a.m. because I also have a young child. 2:35 Central Time on Friday, February 13th. We have the Warthogs team I just talked about against the Queensland Reds. Philip, this is the last season for Les Kiss for the Reds. He's going to go play. He's going to go coach the Australian national team. So kind of a big season for him
Mm.
because the last thing he wants is to have a bad year and then he loses all of his momentum. Uh, the Drua, your favorite team, they play. I would say a kind of a rival, Moana Pacifica. That's
Mhm.
going to be in Fiji. That's at 10:35 p.m. So that's very early for you on February 13th. That is actually a really good time for me because that's only 9:35 here in Austin, Texas.
Perfect.
Then later at 1:05 a.m. Eastern Time, we've got the Blues and Chiefs. That is a pretty big rivalry match. That's going to be a really fun one. And of course, you can check out our team preview and know why that has a little extra juice in it. We got a great match moving on. 3:35 a.m. Eastern Time on Valentine's Day. The Force Brumbies. So if you're in the States, wake up super early, about 4 hours. About 4 hours before the first Six Nations match. Watch this all Australian matchup. It's going to be in Perth, Australia. That's always fun. And then, of course, the last match of round one is actually going to be on February 20th. They count this on it. So I guess technically that could be round two, but they're listing it as round one on the website. And that is the Hurricanes will open their season against Moana Pacifica on February 20th. Philip, out of those, we'll say 5 games that are going to be this weekend, which one are you most excited for?
Yeah, I think again, just going on the Drew and Moana train, I think is quite cool. Purely because we get to see where probably the two most unknown teams in terms of the squads, where they're going to be and what they're going to look like in the opening round. Because I think we have a pretty good gauge on the Aussie and Kiwi teams about where they should be, but just because of the amount of change with Moana in particular, you don't know where they're going to be. So yeah, that's the game I'm most looking forward to.
We also have Japan Rugby League One rolls on. That is this weekend, so don't miss those matches. Philip, we're going to shut the podcast down here by saying, look, we've got our rankings coming out on Wednesday. They're not going to change all that much because the club action wasn't in. So keep a lookout for those for probably next week for our rankings that come out every Wednesday. There probably will be a change because top 14 teams play this week. They come back. They're not going to have a lot of their superstars. There's some interesting games. Our match of the week, do not miss it. Germany versus Portugal. That's right. We're making the Germans the match of the week. I never thought we would. That is probably the most stunning thing, that a German rugby game is going to be our match of the week this week. But well deserved, right?
100%, 100%. You get a big win like that over Romania, you get game of the week the next week.
All right. Catch our FloRugby Instagram account. We're going to have clips and breakdowns. Don't miss our Facebook account, same stuff there. YouTube, we're going to have some free matches there. Keep an eye on our social channels to find out which matches those are. Keep an eye on our Super Rugby previews. That'll be streaming in the United States with our friends at Rugby Pass, so check them out. Philip, Six Nations, Rugby Europe season, Super Rugby. We're going to have top 14 back this week. So much action here. What a time to be alive.
Never gets better, Joe. Never gets better. This is the dream.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for making it through this podcast. We're going to be back with round 2 reactions next week. Round 3 previews, some more buy and sell action. Shouts to Gregor Townsend for picking up that win against England this week and getting that contract extension. We're just kidding. We're there with you, Gregor. Good luck. Okay, here we go. Go watch rugby this weekend, fans.
Thanks, Joe.